Welcome to the Gray Area. Kevin Gray of 105.3 The Fan. Appreciate everyone subscribing to my YouTube channel here at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, also at Kevin Gray Sports. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button right here on our YouTube channel. The Dallas Mavericks get their second straight win, 122-117 over a game San Antonio Spurs team. The Dallas Mavericks used a spectacular performance once again from MVP candidate Luka Doncic to get their record to 8-7 on the season, a game above 500 after their first 15 games. Luka Doncic had a 36-point, 11 assists, 9 rebound performance, including 19 of those points in the first quarter alone. He scored or assisted on 33 of the 37 points that the Mavs scored in the first quarter, as he had 16 assists that led to 14 points for his teammates, and he continued his dominance inside the paint. He leads the NBA in terms of drives inside the paint and got into the paint at will against the San Antonio Spurs. You give the Spurs credit for not laying down throughout this basketball game, being down double digits several points during this basketball game. LaMarcus Aldridge came out hot in the first quarter, hitting 4 3-pointers of his own. Kristaps Porzingis started the first quarter off with 5 quick points before Luka Doncic began to take over in that first quarter. And you gave the Spurs a lot of credit for hanging in there after DeJounte Murray went down with an ankle injury. They stayed in it throughout the basketball game as the Mavericks continued to dominate inside the paint with Luka Doncic's ability to drive and kick to shooters like Tim Hardaway Jr. and Trey Burke. In the second quarter, the Mavs opened up on a 20-6 run to start off against the San Antonio Spurs and found themselves continuing to pour it on as far as their scoring was concerned. This is a team that shot nearly 50% from the field throughout the night, 48% to be exact, did the Mavs as far as their shooting was concerned. Things got tight, though, as it got into the fourth quarter. There was a 3-minute, 37-second stretch where the Mavs did not score a single bucket, and the San Antonio Spurs were able to get the lead down to 1 at 113-112. That was before Luka Doncic sealed the deal with a 11-foot jump shot off the glass, and then after a missed bucket by the San Antonio Spurs, got back down the floor, did the Mavs. And Luka Doncic, with one of his patented drives inside the paint, drawing the defense, kicks it to Jalen Brunson, who on the night himself as a starter had 16 points, a plus 12 in the starting lineup. Jalen Brunson hits the dagger 3 to seal it for the Dallas Mavericks, who were looking a little sketchy in clutch time in the fourth quarter. But at the same time, they are learning how to win games in the clutch. I asked Rick Carlisle after the game about that sequence that Luka Doncic had to Jalen Brunson and the jump shot that he hit and then the subsequent pass to Jalen Brunson. Here is what Rick Carlisle had to say after the game.
Hey, good evening, Coach. That 3:37 stretch there without a bucket, they got it down to 1. Walk us through that 5-point stretch where Luka hits the 11-foot shot there and then hits Brunson for the 3-pointer there in that sequence to push the lead back out.
Yeah, they were creating some confusion with switching and stuff like that. We finally went to a spaced out alignment, let Luka drive line his guy up and get by him, because we had all shooters out there. And Brunson hit a big shot, and then the little bank shot that Luka hit obviously was a huge one as well. So, but again, the thing I loved tonight was positive body language throughout the game. NBA games aren't perfect. There are thousands of events that go on in NBA games. There are officials' calls that you don't agree with. There are physical plays. There are missed shots and turnovers and other adversities. And guys did a real good job of just sticking together and sticking to it.
So Rick Carlisle, understanding his team playing with poise and composure down the stretch, found themselves being able to continue to learn from last season, when last year this team was extremely poor in clutch time. They had 5 guys in double figures, including a guy in Trey Burke who had 13 points. Kristaps Porzingis was a plus 24 with his 21 points and 8 rebounds to go with his patented 2 blocks, which he averaged, of course, 2 blocks a game last year for the Dallas Mavericks. And obviously, this is a team that has gone through a very difficult stretch, a team that played its 11th road game, a league high in terms of road games so far. 11 of their first 15 games have been on the road for the Dallas Mavericks before they come home to take on the Houston Rockets. But at the same time, this team has dealt with a ton of adversity. Still no Dorian Finney-Smith, still no Maxi Kleber, still no Dwight Powell, still no Josh Richardson. And yet and still, this team is finding ways to stay in it and stay afloat. You saw really good energy from a guy in Josh Green who is starting to find his way in terms of his role on this basketball team with the high energy. He had a steal and a dunk finish on transition. Josh Green starting to understand what his role is and being the high energy defensive guy to be able to score buckets as far as cutting in passing lanes and getting out in transition. As this team continues to grow, they will continue to figure out how to trust each other as far as clutch time situations are concerned. Jalen Brunson, who had the clutch 3 to seal it, I asked him after the game how he is feeling about the fact that Luka Doncic continues to develop his chemistry with him and what the off-the-court chemistry has done for their relationship to translate onto the basketball court. Here's what Jalen Brunson had to say after the game.
Hey, good evening, Jalen. Talk us down that stretch there. They cut it to 1 at 113, 112. Luka hits the 2-point shot, then hits you for the 3-pointer. Talk about the trust that he continues to develop in you guys as teammates and having that composure to hit that shot late in there.
I mean, we've been teammates now for this our 3rd year together. We've been growing as friends every day. And I feel like just like the off-court chemistry definitely can translate on the court. And so obviously we all trust him. He does a lot for our team. He makes a lot of plays for himself and for everybody else. And so I was ready just in case he wanted to dish it out to me, and I was ready to knock it down.
So obviously, Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson developing off-court chemistry that translates onto the court. And we've seen this now. This is the second time we've seen this season that Luka Doncic has made the correct basketball play and trusted his teammates at the end of games. You saw in the Denver Nugget game when he hit Maxi Kleber for a crucial 3-pointer before that game eventually went into overtime. Luka Doncic making the correct basketball plays, drawing the defense, finding the open shooter, and a teammate being able to knock down the shot. And we've talked about this a lot this season, that his teammates are going to have to make defenses pay for collapsing on him as much as they do because of how much attention he draws with his ability to drive inside the paint. And you saw Jalen Brunson in a key moment to seal a basketball game be able to do so down the stretch. And also a guy in Tim Hardaway who continues to have the kind of mindset and mental fortitude to brush off bad basketball games or poorly played games and remain the professional and staying ready night in and night out. Tim Hardaway against the San Antonio Spurs goes 8 of 12 from the field, was a +9 or +6 in the plus-minus category, and had 21 points of his own. One of his best sequences of the game was him getting back in transition to challenge a shot in transition by the San Antonio Spurs and sprinting the length of the floor back down the floor, and Luka Doncic hitting him for a layup to be able to help the Mavs get a possession back. And here is Tim Hardaway talking about the value of possessions and why it's important to never give up on a play. Here's what Tim Hardaway had to say about that sequence after I asked him about that.
Hey, Tim, good evening. Obviously going 8 of 12 with 21 points tonight, but I think one of the best sequences you had tonight, you chased down a block or chased down on a defensive end and transitioning back and got a layup on the other end. Talk about the mentality and the mindset of staying locked in on both ends, obviously continuing to do that with regularity.
Yeah, I mean, we're just a lot of men down. So, every possession counts. And it's great just to have these times and these moments just to keep on building and try to hold down the fort until those guys get back. So just staying locked in, not hanging your head on a turnover, getting back on defense, every possession counts, and just trying to get the stop, and good things will happen.
So Tim Hardaway understands in a divisional game against a San Antonio Spurs team, a well-coached Greg Popovich team, that you cannot not value possessions in basketball games at this critical juncture, even though it's early on in the season. Jalen Brunson had mentioned about the fact that these tiebreakers are going to be very different. These tiebreakers are going to be very important going out throughout the rest of the season as far as you're dealing with the Western Conference. So getting a road win against a divisional opponent in the Southwest Division is extremely important for this Mavs team, and they were able to do so and steal one out in San Antonio. I asked Luka Doncic after the game also, after Jalen Brunson made his comments about the off-the-court chemistry that he and Luka have had being teammates since the year 2018, what that means for him as he continues to trust his teammates in those crucial situations as he did again against the Spurs. Here is what Luka Doncic had to say about that sequence, hitting Jalen Brunson for the three-pointer.
Hey, good evening, Luka. Jalen was just talking about the off-court chemistry that you two have developed over the years. Talk about that chemistry and trust in your teammates, and obviously that stretch moment there with the 2-point shot and then hitting Brunson for the three-pointer there to kind of seal it.
I mean, yeah, we have off-court chemistry. Obviously now, these times, it's difficult because of Corona. And, but last 2 years when I was here, we always went to a lot of team dinners, especially on the road. And, that builds up chemistry.
So Luka Doncic, look, he's continuing to develop the kind of trust in his teammates that's going to be valuable down the stretch in crucial points in basketball games. And you saw how this team struggled in clutch time a year ago. What they are learning is the ability to make better decisions, as Luka mentioned during his post-game comments also, that the better decisions that they make down the stretch, the more chances they will have to win basketball games. And when you can find yourself getting stops in key points in basketball games and then making the correct basketball plays, that's when you find yourself a maturing basketball team learning how to win when the games are most on the line. You saw balanced scoring attacks from, obviously, with Luka Doncic and his 36 points, Tim Hardaway with his 21 points, Kristaps Porzingis with his 21, also Jalen Brunson with 16, and you also saw Trey Burke with his 13 points. Another guy who I thought played well, James Johnson, continuing to do the things he does as a Swiss Army knife. Wes Iwundu won the Defensive Player of the Game and the championship belt as the best defensive player, which is awarded to a Mavs player who shows the best defensive game in a win, and Wes Iwundu was able to do that once again. It is never going to be a guy as Wes Iwundu who fills up the stat sheet from a scoring standpoint, but what he does on the defensive end with his intangibles, his length, his constant bothering and putting pressure on opposing offenses, that is the kind of disruptor that a team needs to remain in the top 10 in terms of a defensive efficiency category and defensive rating category all season long. Because, again, we know the theme of this season. A team that wants to get better on the defensive end but show and still be good on the offensive end. This was a team in the Dallas Mavericks who at one point was 18th in terms of offensive rating. These last couple of games against the Indiana Pacers where they scored 124 points and then back it up with another 122 points shows you that this team is starting to get into much better rhythm on the offensive side. And once they get fully healthy with the Maxi Klebers of the world, with the Dorian Finney-Smiths of the world, the Josh Richardsons, and even the Dwight Powells of the world, this is going to be a team that offensively is going to get even better with the continuity that they have once they all are on the same page with one another. But for now, this team, you give them credit for the resiliency that they continue to show game in and game out. And that is a team that is maturing, that is learning, and that is growing in how to win basketball games. Because this is one of those ones where we saw a season ago that would have gotten away from them. They didn't let that happen against a game San Antonio Spurs basketball team that saw LaMarcus Aldridge probably play his best game of the season so far. And that's important against a Greg Popovich coach team in the San Antonio Spurs. So give credit to Rick Carlisle and his bunch for hanging in there as things got tight late in the ball game, but still remaining composed enough to be able to make the right plays and the necessary plays down the stretch with clutch hit shots from the outside, clutch free throw shooting, And more importantly, their leader, Luka Doncic, is continuing to amaze and play at an MVP caliber level. It seems like a while ago now that we were talking about Luka Doncic not being in shape. Yeah, my man's in shape right now, and he's balling out for the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks get a 122-117 win over the San Antonio Spurs to get to 8-7. They take on the Houston Rockets next as they come back home to the American Airlines Center. I will be at that game reporting from there also, so stay tuned on the Kevin Gray Sports YouTube channel. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, also at Kevin Gray Sports. We'll talk to you later. Peace.